Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a good Christmas and you are preparing yourself for the New Year celebrations. Today we're going to be continuing on from our previous video where we routed out to install some FCS2 boxes in a couple of Justin's blanks. So we'll have a quick recap on that and then we're going to do the installation process today. So if you didn't watch the last video, I'll put a link up for it on the screen somewhere here. But essentially we checked all of Justin's fin markings, his placement markings. We went over what equipment we need, how to set the jig, depth of the router bit, different types of routers, all that fun stuff. We looked at our cant angles, we looked at our toe-in angles, and essentially at the end of that video we were left with this. So all of our routes are done, our fins are in place, so today we're going to be glassing them in. Good times. So the first thing we're going to do is pull some masking tape, and we're just going to mask off the rails by those side boxes, just so if we get any excess resin squeeze out of the boxes, we can wipe it to the tape. It's not going to pour down the rail, it's going to pour down the tape and onto the floor. Because we're going to be laminating these boxes straight after they're installed, we don't want any high pieces of resin, we want to wipe it off really flat, so the tape helps us to do that without spreading resin all over the board. We're then going to pull the fins out, make sure you put them in an order so you know which one's your left fin, which one's your right fin, which one's your center fin. You're not putting the wrong boxes in the wrong holes. And finally after that we need to level the board so that our resin doesn't pull in either the nose end or the tail end of our routes. It's going to sit nice and flat and evenly in the route, cover the boxes fully. So with our resin mixed, I've mixed about 20 mils of resin per box, so there's roughly 60 mils in that container there for the whole board. And when we did our route depth, remember we left about 1.5 mils of depth, so we routed about 1.5 mils deeper than the box itself to account for the resin. So you'll notice here I'm not pouring resin straight into the hole. What I'm doing is I'm coating the walls of that route, knowing that it's going to run down onto the flat of the route eventually anyway. So I'm only focused on getting the walls of the route wet. The floor of the route doesn't concern me at all. Once I'm satisfied that all the walls of the route are wetted out with the stick, then I'm going to lay the box over that route, and I'm going to start doing the same process to both the walls of the box, the bottom of the box, and of course those little slots you see on the side of the box. I'm going to fill them up as well. All of that resin as I apply it is draining into the route itself, so you can rest assured that the floor of the route is well saturated, but you haven't filled it up with resin. So once both sides of the box and the bottom of the box are covered in resin, we're going to insert it into the route and we're slowly going to push it down, remembering we're trying to get the box flush with the blank itself. We want to see resin pouring out of the sides. If you don't see resin coming out of the sides, then you've got to pull the box back out, add a little more resin and start over again. We're going to do this process pretty slowly because we don't want resin to pour into our fin tab and glue our dummy fin in there. So we're going to push it down a little bit, squeegee away a little bit of resin towards our masking tape, then we can push down a little more, squeegee away a little more until we get everything nice and flat. Remember, once this resin's cured and we pull our dummy fins out, we're going to laminate straight over this. So we don't want any lumps of resin on the blank or the edge of our masking tape. We're going to pull that off as well, wipe it nice and tight, because we don't want anything high that's going to cause air bubbles in our lamination when we cloth over the boxes. We're going to check our cant angles here before our resin kicks, so make sure that both of your fins on your rails are the same. Make sure that that center fin is nice and upright, and if you need to adjust anything with masking tape to equalize those two rail fins, now's the time to do that before the resin kicks. Once our resin's cured, we can pull our dummy fins out and we're going to put some stickers over each box, just so we don't fill it up with resin when we laminate it. Once we're all stickered up, we can start laying cloth. We're actually going to do two different techniques, a different one for each board. So with the longer board, we're actually going to cut a full size patch, which is going to go about 1/4 or 1/3 of the way up the board. It's going to cover all 3 boxes. It doesn't wrap the rails, so I've cut it so that it stops just short of the rails. And we need to make sure that we don't have a straight line running from rail to rail across the stringer. We're going to taper it out into kind of a point or a diamond, you can see there, so that we're not creating a snapping point or a creasing point going straight across. I would normally rather do these large patches, but because on this shorter board Justin's left me with this really shallow channel to work with, I don't want to be putting any extra cloth in that channel because I think I'm actually going to completely fill it and it'll disappear once all the cloth from the resin's in there. So I've just done my little football patches over the top, and then we can full lam it and hopefully keep that channel. The technique of laminating over these boxes is going to be the same though, just one's going to take more resin obviously than the other, but we want that cloth nice and flat on the blank, and we really want to work out any air bubbles that are going to get between the fin box itself and the cloth. Same deal with our football patches, just going to apply a little bit of resin. Again, these don't wrap the rails at all, they're only to cover the box, give a little more reinforcement and something else to sand, and we're just going to work those air bubbles out, get everything nice and flat. If you get some air bubbles on top of your sticker itself, that's fine, because that's all going to be sanded away at the end, but we don't want bubbles above the boxes. And this is the result we're after. So this is our football patch. There's no air bubbles in it that aren't above the sticker over the fin slot, and our full board patch is the same. It's laminated nice and tight to the blank, no air bubbles above the boxes, so we're good to move on to the next step. So this isn't a laminating video, I'm not teaching you how to laminate a full board right now, but our next step is our bottom layer to our cut lap, or in this case it's a free lap. Just on this step we need to again be careful around the fin boxes. Although we filled them a little bit with cloth, there's still going to be a ridge where that higher fin slot is, so we want to make sure we're not getting any bubbles in this layer of cloth either. You can do your patches and your full bottom lam to your cut lap all at the same time, and usually with epoxy boards I do all of that at the same time because the drying time's so long, but with poly I can kick the patches really quick so I don't have to wait too long, and it just helps me make sure there's no bubbles in each layer. So from this point on I don't actually touch the boxes for a while. What I'm going to do is flip the board over, we're going to get our deck patch down, and then once our deck patch is laminated I'm going to put down the top layer to the tuck which wraps around the rails. Then from there I'm going to go straight into a hot coat on the deck side of the board, so we're going to brush resin all over that, sanding resin. And then from there we flip the board back over, we're going to hot coat or put sanding resin on the underside of the board, and that's when we get back to the boxes again. Hockily dockily, so this is arguably the hardest part of this entire process. So where that white sticker is on the fin boxes, we know that that's higher up than the rest of the fin box and the board itself. And on top of those stickers we've got 2 layers of fiberglass and 1 full layer of resin. So what I'm doing here with the sander is thinning out, I'm sanding away all the resin above the sticker, and I'm thinning out the fiberglass cloth above that sticker itself. The thing that can really go wrong at this stage is sanding away too much resin and too much fiberglass on the rest of the box, the black part of the box, because we don't want to remove fiberglass that's holding that box in, we just want to remove this sticker. So going pretty slowly with a combination of the sander and a razor blade helps as well. The risk with the razor blade is putting big knife gouges into your fin box, which you want to avoid. So the blade is really the secondary tool. It's just helping sort of lift the sticker up, cut out some thicker bits of glass, but primarily this step is done with the sander. The number one tip I could give you here is don't cut down into the box with the razor blade. You don't want these big ugly gashes in your boxes from your razor blade. So like I say, you're using your knife basically as tweezers, but you're removing the bulk of the material with the sander itself. Once that's mostly cut out, I'm going to sand the entire board with 120 grit anyway and a soft pad, so any little bits of sticker left over we can remove with that process, but we don't want to be thinning out the fiberglass above the boxes too much. Once the whole board's sanded off with 120, the important thing for this video is these boxes are good, all the stickers been removed, our cloth is nice and neat and flat around the boxes, so we're going to re-sticker and get ready for the gloss coat. We're pretty much on easy street from this stage onwards. If you've got the boxes looking pretty good at this point, then they're going to look pretty good at the end result as well. Once again, this isn't a how to glass a surfboard video, but at this point we are gloss coating the underneath of the board. I've got my resin dam set up as well, so we're going to have nice sharp rails at the back end of the board. Once this is done, I'm going to flip it over. I'm also going to gloss coat the deck side of the board, and then once that's all finished and cured, we're ready for our final sand. Finish off the board, make it look good, and finish off the fin boxes and make them look good. So at a similar stage as your cut lap, your resin has gelled but it hasn't fully cured. That's when I'm going to lift the stickers off of this. So I'm not going to be lifting resin as I do it, but I'm not going to have to cut the stickers out either because the resin isn't fully cured. So just using my scalpel or my blade, just peeling up one end, slowly lifting it out. The resin isn't wet, but it's not fully cured, and we should get them out nice and tidy, nice and neat, and there'll only be a very small little edge where the resin met the sticker and where you've peeled it up, but it won't be a big, bulky, sharp edge. From this stage, I'm not actually going to sand the board yet. We're going to pre-drill for our leash plug, then we're going to drill out for our leash plug, we're going to get that installed, and then we'll do our big final sand. So everything will be finished off the same. The leash plug will be sanded down and opened up with 240, the whole board will be sanded with 240, and then 320, 320 wet, 400, 600, 800, 1200, and then polished, so it'll have a nice even finish over the whole board. Once you're all final sanded and polished, be sure to blow the fin boxes out with the air compressor, wipe any excess polish or water sludge out of those boxes, clean them up real good, and you're done. You've just installed fin boxes. So well done to you, and have a bottle of rum to celebrate, or maybe not a bottle, a glass of rum to celebrate. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you've taken something away, and good luck with your installs if you get around to doing some. And I wish you all a happy new year. We'll see you in 2023. I'm guessing I won't get another video out before then, so I hope the end of this year's good, and I hope the start of next year's even better. And yeah, all the best. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to do the subscribing thing. Have a good one. Chee-hoo!